Oh, hello. Didn't hear you come in. I am your solo tavern keeper, Campter, and today we're going to be talking about role-playing in Dungeons and Dragons. More specifically, Pathfinder in this scenario. I'm going to be talking about why players should never be trusted with a wish. You may have heard this story before in other YouTube videos, but this is my personal encounter with how one simple gesture of goodwill from a DM can end a player's life like that. So, come join me, will you, as we experience one of my more questionable campaigns. So the story begins with myself and a few fellow co-workers. We wanted to get a Pathfinder game going. It was really early on in my career at this current company I'm working at. And one of the new employees that started along with me, she asked if we wanted to do a campaign. She has never DM'd before. I've mainly DM'd, and so it would give me a chance to play as a normal role player, and she would be able to DM. And the whole idea was that we'd go back and forth and be able to share ideas, and I'd be able to help her with rules, and she'd be able to, learn from experience on how to DM. And at first it was working all right. She did only know how to play 4th edition at the time, so I had to convert her to Pathfinder in 3.5, and so there was little bumps and bruises along the way. We were playing with extended race rules, and I was playing a Samsaran what was I? I was a Magus, Samsaran Magus. And so the whole gimmick was my character was kind of a Time Lord, if you ever watch Doctor Who, where if they die, they reincarnate, but my character doesn't remember what happened in his past life. So the whole joke was I would always write down everything I did. So in case I ever died or something would happen to my character, I could restart and have a kind of gist of what was going on, and then kind of replay the character as a different class and professions and all that stuff with a different personality. Keep that in mind, though. They are not immortal. They just regenerate. They still need a soul to continue on, and that's going to play into effect later in the story. So the campaign setting, I don't remember too much. It was about like light and dark dragon, and we had a druid with a centaur druid, a Samsaran, a dwarf paladin, and I think we had kind of like a warlock who was very ditzy. And I can't remember too much about what happened in the storyline, but one of the issues we were having was we had a problem with the DM. She was too invested in telling her story through the use of NPC to NPC conversations where the players were stuck kind of watching. And it's kind of like watching kind of a cutscene, and you only get to really watch. You don't get to interact. Your character is just kind of standing there while there's plot going on. And in a role-playing game, that's kind of a no-no. You want the players to drive the story. You don't want the NPCs to drive NPCs. And it really keeps the players uninterested in what's going on, and that was something I was trying to express with this new DM, but she was having trouble kind of understanding the concept of, like, the players are in control. You need to entertain the players. The DM's job is to make the players happy. Yes, you have a story to unfold, but you need to make sure that you include them. Have them ask questions. Have them find the information. Have them be interested in finding the next piece of the puzzle, not have them essentially be plopped from one person to another. And so it became a point where we were just kind of burnt out. And so I kind of was aware of this, and so I was trying to spice things up by kind of making my character a little bit more rambunctious. He was a lawful, I think he was a neutral good character. He was originally going to be lawful, but he kind of did some things, so I kind of toned him back to make him more of a neutral character to fit with his personality and not conflict with some other issues. Excuse me. So, one of the things that happened was we were told to go to this crypt because there was a deity in this campaign that we needed to explore her ruins and have some adventures through that. And I didn't know what was going to happen next, but as DM myself and kind of hearing from other, stories and people that if you ever get the opportunity to use a wish, either don't use the wish, waste the wish, or just go crazy. And at the time, I was just reading up and trying to figure out for my own campaign how to include a deck of many things. And a lot of other YouTubers and a lot of other more experienced Dungeons & Dragons players have talked about the deck of many things. But essentially, it is kind of like a small wheel of fate. You have a small-sized deck of cards based on, a normal 52 pickup deck, and they have effects ranging from being wealthy, gaining experience, to things like destroying a character, like removing stats, levels down, and all this kind of crazy stuff. And what happened was, in this shrine, we were brought forth above a giant shrine with an angel, and it in some dwarvish, I think, talked about, wishing for the greater good, but only giving a personal sacrifice. And so while everybody else is just kind of like meandering, doing the normal kind of like, let's loot things, let's, inspect the door, let's look for traps and all this stuff, me and the dwarf paladin, who was roleplaying as an explorer, she was like, well, what should we do? And my character's like, looking at my personal notes, going through roleplay, trying to get more people interacted, but they were all kind of like blinders on, doing their thing. And it came to the point where I'm like, why don't we prick ourselves and smear a little bit of blood into the thing? Because I'm a Samsaran, I have the ability to, my blood is a little bit more potent, can heal. Maybe we can heal her into giving us like some sort of clue on whatever the next part of the plot was. So we're like, all right, that seems fair. So while everybody else is doing their thing, I kind of slide a note to the DM that says, I prick my finger and I rub some blood into it to see what would happen with the shrine. She rolls her dice, and she goes, oh, everybody, it looks like the shrine is glowing and moving, and an avatar folds through the stone and brings an image of this goddess. And she looks at your character, Camptor, and she goes, I will give you one wish to those who are worthy. And what was intended was we were supposed to get the plot point piece of the puzzle, like go to X, or give us information on Y, or who should we be looking for, kind of to roll the plot for it, because she was having a hard time getting us focused. Well, being researching into some fun things in Pathfinder, like the deck of many things, I want the deck of many things. She doesn't know what it is, she gives it to me, and the goddess fades away. Well, the rest of the party, looking for an excuse to actually continue the plot and continue the story, are kind of just looking at me like, excuse me? Like, that's what you wish for? And to me, I'm just like, oh no, this is bad. I have one of four options. I can either use the deck of many things once, throw it away, give the deck of many things back, try to use the deck of many things to repair the situation, or go ham. Well, I went ham. So we left, so the campaign kind of closed out, we got what we needed, and we went back to the main hub of the campaign, some city. And in the city, I pulled the DM aside while everybody else is buying and selling, and I'm like, so it doesn't say in the rules here. So what I'm going to have is, I'm going to find a homeless person on the streets, because there's a lot of homeless people, and I want to have a homeless person draw from the deck of many things. My character is curious, he's a scholar. I want to see what happens when the homeless guy draws the cards. And it's whoever draws from the deck gets whatever happens. And she's like, oh, okay. So I had my deck of many things built up. She draws out of the deck, and the homeless person essentially lost 2 levels. The NPCs are usually level 1 since they're not experienced travelers or adventurers. And if you go negative, they die. So I essentially drained the NPC of his life force, causing my character to start going corrupt. Now, I thought this was hilarious. Like, this is like, oh my god, like, my character is just gonna start slowly turning evil, starting to kind of like abuse the power of this deck, and it's gonna kind of put some contrast for the characters and cause them to, really hate him. The problem was the DM didn't like that. So starting to retaliate, she's like, well, your character's gonna become more evil. Like, I'm aware. My character's gonna, start losing effects towards his neutral path. He's gonna start becoming more evil. He's gonna start going towards that evil path. That's all intended towards what I wanted to do. So she not happy with that, starts writing around ways for me not to use the deck in many things, anti-magic areas, just kind of ways to cut into the fun that we were having and get her back onto her story, into her path. And it comes back to the characters are driving the story right now, and I'm not okay with that. I need to put them back onto my path. And so I saw that, and I'm like, all right, I have to have a talk with her. So I had to talk with her, and like, we really got to make sure that you're having the players drive the story. You want to make sure that the people are having fun. People are kind of talking, and they're not really having a good time. They're really kind of wanting to be able to do what they want in the story. She's like, well, I have a story planned out. I got things going. I got things planned. I'm like, okay, but if the players want to go off track, if they want to go left when you want to go right, you should allow the players to go left. And so it's one of those things where trying to communicate in button heads again. And it came back to a lot of like rule disputes and me going like, well, that's not how it works in 3.5. That's not how it works in Pathfinder. We don't do it this way. Oh, well, that's not what I want to do right now. I'm like, well, that's kind of what we're doing. And so we were kind of had a couple encounters. I think there was a couple of sessions where things kind of went low, like into a lull. Our Centaur Bard was writing stories about my shenanigans, and it was just starting to be like using the deck of cards to kill to get the wish, ruining the party, dooming the world, and it was kind of playing into effect, and it was pretty funny until we kind of hit the last day of campaign. Now, for context, this part of the story was us in a dungeon. We were doing a puzzle where we had to go in and find, I think it was another book with like angelic or demonic language. And while we were in this dungeon, we were tasked to do kind of like a teleportation puzzle, like in Final Fantasy, where if you touch a stone, you go to one direction, and then if you touch a stone, you come back. Well, as a scholar, as the mage, and also the experienced player, I was trying to get the players into action. So a lot of people, again, were too cautious. They're like, well, we don't want to touch anything. And I'm like, well, look, what we're going to do is I have a cantrip. I can write down notes on the ground using glowing kind of magic runes, kind of like a message system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop from room to room, and I'm going to make notes of where we're kind of going, and I'm going to number the rooms so we can kind of learn our way through. And they're like, okay, that's a good idea. So first room, pop in, write down what's in the room, come back, relay. So it went from like 1 stone to 3 stones. So once I got everybody confident enough to actually move into the second room, I kind of was like, all right, I'm going to go into this pedestal on the far left. Made my note, pressed the orb, went into the next room. Now this room was pretty dark. The DM described it as a room with a lot of kind of like very small and very compressed. And you hear a whirring mechanism. And you start to feel kind of wet feet. And so I had 2 options with this situation. I can either metagame and try to find the switch, or play towards what my character would do. My character is very kind of reactive. So he's like, oh, no. So I'm going to use a spell. I'm going to freeze the water. I'm going to freeze the water, and I'm going to go from there. He's also blind. He doesn't have any night vision, so he can't see anything. And so he didn't think to use any spells to like light up the room or anything like that. He didn't have anything prepared. So he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna cast freeze wave. Haha! I'm gonna outsmart you. I'm gonna freeze the water." She's like, "Well, you didn't freeze the mechanism, so it's still raising water." And I'm like, "All right, well, I'm gonna kind of panic and this and that." So I'm letting kind of suspense build up. And then she's like, "All right, we're gonna stop there. We're gonna go to the other group. What's the other group doing? We're gonna play this out. We're gonna see what happens to his character." The Magus, and see what's going to happen to him. So I'm like, all right, so they're not going to do anything. And so they come back to me, and I'm like, well, I'm going to try to use the orb again. I'm going to try to try to cast some magic, use magic device. Oh, use this orb and teleport back. No, sorry, nothing happens. Sorry. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to fill around. And it felt like at this point it was me trying to find a clever way to not metagame, her denying that issue. So it was kind of, she wanted me dead. And this is because I derailed her campaign. And I'm like, alright, I see where this is going. I'm going out with a bang. So the water's flooding up, and the other group is like, well, what should we do? It's been a while, should we campaign? She's like, no, the teleporter's broken, you can't get to him. So the other people can't save me, so it's essentially I'm in a death trap. The water's filling up, and it's up to my neck at this point, and my character's like, I draw 5 from the deck of many things. So I draw my 5, and I draw gems. So I start shooting gems out of the card. So I'm just kind of like dumping gems out of the cards, like, oh no, that's not going to do anything. Throw the card back, it gets put into the deck of many things. And I'm like, draw again. And it's just like, you get an item that is 1 quality higher than your level. So I get a belt that gives me strength. Cool. And I'm like, all right, cool. Gain 2 levels. Gain a bunch more money. So I'm pouring more money in. So I'm sitting here with like flooding up, and I'm just pouring money. I'm like, this is great. I'm going to be rich when I get out of this. If I get out of this. So I'm like, oh no, what am I doing? And so she's like, what are you doing? Time's running out. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to draw 3. I'm going to draw 4 more out of the deck. First card, gems again. Because with the way she had it set up, she was shuffling cards back in there. So I draw more gems. There's more beautiful gemstones and stuff coming out of there. And then I gain 2 levels, and I gain a bunch of experience. And then I get a card that essentially it gives you an escape out of your current predicament. Now, in this situation, it should have been the trap stops, I get teleported out, I learn how to breathe, I get an item that lets me breathe, or an item that lets me see underwater to stop the mechanism. Any of these things should have happened where I should have been safe from this predicament. But the problem was, I just broke her campaign a second time. I was rich, I was 4 times higher level than everybody else in the campaign, and I now had really powerful magical items. So what she did was, and to this day I still think is a very, very bad move for a DM, they gave me an item to give me an extended breath by a minute. It should have increased my chances of finding a way out of the puzzle, but it was essentially, no, you're gonna die here, and this is essentially what's gonna happen. You're gonna deal with it. So I'm like, all right. So I'm like, fine. I have one last trick up my sleeve. And it's the fact that I'm a Samsaran. And as a Samsaran, I can regenerate. And this comes back to, as long as I have my soul, I can regenerate. So I'm like, alright, I'm going to draw 1 more time out of the deck of many things. Hopefully get something cool, so when I wake up, my character is going to be like, what's going on? Reads the notes, I'm like, oh, I'm an explorer. This is why I'm here. Pick up from where I left off and become something different. Have a different personality. Continue the campaign. I draw the last card of the deck of many things. The card I drawed was, my soul is removed from my body and placed in another dimension. My soul is trapped, and I lose all levels and magical items. I have been imprisoned. So essentially what happened was, my character got really powerful, was built up for my next life to be an incredibly powerful person, and the 1 card out of the deck, out of 24 cards I think, kills me. So my character just loses his soul, and I shrivel up, die, and the trap just suffocates me. Now, what happens is, I stand up and I'm like, well, tear up the page, I'm like, good night, everybody! Looks like I wasn't making it out of that one. And so everybody's kind of like laughing and clapping, because I was trying, like, they could tell that things weren't right with the whole campaign. And so I was like, alright, I lose. Like, there's nothing I could do in that situation that would have won. And my character's dead. She finally lets the players come in, and so they come into a room that's slowly draining of water, with my dead body, lifeless, with my notebook ruined, and the deck of many things gone, just covered in gems, coin, and like all of my equipment that isn't magical just left there. And that's kind of where things left off. Because the player didn't get to dictate what was going on, the players rebelled. When the players rebelled, the DM got angry. The DM wanted you to go back onto path. The players it became a polite struggle between what the players wanted to have fun and the DM's, trying to control the story. So it became a kind of a polite gaming way of what each player wanted. And indeed, this was at this point we wasted several hours, like weeks and weeks and weeks. We'd get together and play. It was like every weeknight, every Monday night for like 3 months. So that's 9, 12, like almost a day and a half worth of our time invested in this story. And at this point, we worked together. We're trying to be polite. And it ended with us kind of butting heads, and finally I killed the group. I unfortunately ended the campaign with everybody else there because I was offered politely if I wanted another character. I'm like, nope, I'm good on this one. It's like this was kind of the last straw of I tried to help you. I tried to make the campaign more fun, but you kept bringing me back into your story and not letting us actually kind of experience it as a player, but more of NPCs to your NPC. And so that is the tale of how I destroyed a campaign and kind of freed everybody's time for a while. Now, I don't ever recommend trying to destroy a GM's campaign. I always say that if you're going to play a game, please be respectful to your GM. GM, be respectful to the player's time. Ask for feedback. See how you can make the campaign better. If you're doing a pre-made campaign, like I'm currently doing, I'm trying to show you where it is at. Here, like right now I'm currently running Rise of the Runelords. If players aren't having fun with this campaign, adjust it. Make it interesting for the players. Find out what the players want to do. If you need to, find a point in the game and let the players leave. If there's something going on and you're just like, what about this? What about, like, you know, the players hear about this and they go out of town to do research, or they have a lead. And then, you know, find a way to incorporate another smaller story to kind of break up the pace, or kind of write your own story to kind of get the players interested in another kind of way to roleplay. And then if things work out, continue that way, or head back. A lot of campaigns actually have milestone systems or ways for you to kind of branch off and come back. You don't have to stick to the road sometimes. And I've done that several times where we've left campaigns. We were doing another campaign story that was just really boring, and after the end of the book one, I sat down with my group. I'm like, are you guys having fun? And they're like, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to write up a campaign. We're going to do something small, and I'm going to let you dictate from there. Let your players have fun. Role-playing, Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, Shadowrun, it's all about having fun. And if no one's having fun, then what's the point of playing? So try to communicate between your players and your DMs, and try to make each other better. DMs can't practice without a group, and a group can't enjoy a story without a DM. So the moral of the story is, listen to your players, listen for advice, and always remember, never give a wish. I've been Campter, your innkeeper. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you join me for my next story. Cheers and good night.